Hi, and thank you for joining us today. Soliant will be releasing a new update to our Soliant.cloud Client Portal due February the 9th of this year. We're going to shoot for somewhere around 8 p.m. start time. We'll have a couple hours of downtime during the upgrade. We'll be giving some additional information to our existing clients when that is going to occur and specific timing. My name is Bill Heizer. I'm the Director of AWS Practice here at Soliant Consulting. And today I want to take a few minutes to walk you through some investments we've made in our cloud technologies and a little bit about the new portal. So to begin with, in addition to our existing partnerships with Amazon Web Services and Claris as a platinum partner, we've added MontyCloud to our partnership list as well as DataDog. Now, MontyCloud is a cloud ops tool for visibility into a lot of different areas: inventory, security, compliance, cost. And what it allows us to do is do analysis and testing on particular clients' AWS environments to allow them to get the most out of what they've got going on, control costs, and get an understanding of what changes can be made to stand up and increase security standpoint or reduce cost load. The DataDog partnership allows us to bring a tool that's designed for really real-time dashboard monitoring and service observability. And we plan on integrating that into a number of different areas. Right out of the gate for our FileMaker customers, we're going to be making a DataDog dashboard available to you shortly here as part of every FileMaker server implementation. And we'll talk through that a little bit. We made some pretty significant investments in our different programs that we're in. We are the only AWS advanced tier partner doing FileMaker server hosting. We've also received a number of designations over the year. Our most recent one is our Well-Architected Partner Program. This allows us to perform well-architected reviews of clients' infrastructure to help them understand and get visibility into what they have, where it's running, what's its security standpoint, what's its cost, and a number of the other AWS pillars. We've run a number of these and getting excellent results from customers who are getting value out of the programs being performed and making significant changes to reduce costs and get observability into their environment investment. We made a lot of investments in our certifications this year. As far as our existing AWSs, we've added some new ones. We've added a DevOps engineer to our staff. We've got a professional. We've added advanced networking specialty across a number of different team members, specialties in security. We've received our Google Professional and Architect Google Cloud certifications and added to our security certifications, the ISC2 certification, as well as continued our partnership with CyberGIX, who does an annual third-party review to analyze our environments for our customers in Soliant.cloud and provide us the capability at a select use case-by-case basis to provide things like HIPAA and SOX and our ISO compliance. And we do that through a third party to get those certifications done. So let's continue on with the Soliant.cloud portal. Done a whole new facelift on thing with a modern UI. We're going to go through each of these things and a little bit of information, and then finally come back and talk about a new product that we've got called OmniBlaze. OmniBlaze, at a short, is a load testing tool to allow you to test between 1,000 and 2,000 different FileMaker clients and understand the load and impact they're having on the server hardware that it's running on, as well as how well your particular application can perform based on the hardware and based on its particular architecture. And we'll come back and take a look at that. But let's jump into the portal real quick and talk a little bit about it. So to begin with, you're going to land on the dashboard when you log in. For those clients who have only one client, you'll always land on this dashboard for that client. For our FBAs and our enterprise clients who manage multiple different clients or multiple different departments, you'll have the ability to switch between them, and when you switch, you'll land here. We bring you here to give you some quick insight to what's going on. We're going to bring you some attention on anything that needs to be taken care of in your environment. We're also going to provide you some information about announcements. This will include things like downtimes, upgrades, patches, outages, and a number of different things that you need to be aware of inside of your particular account. So let's take a quick peek over here at one of our hosts and walk through those a little bit. We'll take a look at FMS Dev 23. So out of the gate, we've added some additional information here at the start here to give you better visibility of what's going on and when things are happening. And then we've also given you the ability to stop, start, and restart your host from right here. And this will come into play here in a little bit. I want to come back when we talk about dynamic Docker because it's a kind of a missing feature here that I want to point out. But let's continue on here. You can modify your volume sizes to anything you need. You issue the change request. It automatically orchestrates that change in the back end for you in an environment, and you'll be notified via when it is done. For FileMaker servers, we've moved a couple of things around. The first one is hosted FTP access. Hosted FTP access can be flipped on or off now. This provides you the ability to get a secure FTP connection to your live FileMaker databases for a period of time. Gives you FTP transfer instead of HTTP, which gives you more resiliency and some better speed. WebDirect has been added to this now, so you can set a custom home URL for WebDirect. You make that modification, issue it, and it will happen on the back end. We've given a couple more ability to restart a couple different components. We've added OData API and AutoFMS. We have a lot of customers using that awesome tool from AutoFMS, and we've added that to be able to restart that component should you have any issues with it. In addition to that, we've also added some unique capabilities for AutoFMS into Soliant.cloud that's wrapped into our Snapbacks, which means that we're basically taking all of that configuration information, locking it up into a Snapback should there be a need to restore or do something with it. We don't have to reset all that stuff up, and we can reconfigure it back on a new provisioned instance or one that we have to move or migrate. So let's talk about Snapbacks real quick. For those of you not familiar with Snapbacks, they have two primary purposes. The first one is to reduce the amount of time it takes, or basically eliminate the time it takes to perform a backup. The short of it is it's a block storage copy, and we put it into S3, and that S3 is an 11/9 of durability, and it is also extraordinarily less costly than to store backups on a EBS or volumes attached to that particular instance. You want to remove away from that and get to a much lower cost model. And the way that backups can perform that fast is they're doing a block copy of the volume as opposed to actual file copies, so you get a delta of those. Now we perform 96 backups a day, every 15 minutes. That reduces your RPO, or your recovery point objective, down to 1 to 14 minutes depending on when the last one has run. We store 96 of them a day. We store another for the next 7 days. We keep one for the last of the day, and again for one for every 4 weeks, and one for every month of the last 3 months. So you can perform, let your Snapbacks run, and that's the schedule that happens. But you can also perform one at any point in time. The beauty in this, it allows you to take a particular snapshot at a moment in time to have that snapshot Snapback available to you for things like, I want to run one just prior to a massive change I'm going to make in one of my environments, and then I want to take one afterwards. Good example would be I'm getting ready to perform a migration. Let's take a Snapback and then let's mark it. And you can mark Snapbacks to save. Any of them can be saved through preservation. This is very different than preserving, say, a FileMaker backup to run, because you're preserving the snapshot. No additional cost, no additional time to perform the backup, no additional capabilities needed there. You can also name the thing that you want to call it and be able to recall it and use it to get to through our Snapback methodology. Now, a couple of things about Snapbacks in addition to, I'm going to actually switch over to a different host. We're going to switch to this one and go back over here to Snapbacks. One of the features that we've been asked to provide was the ability to not only take and mount a Snapback onto an instance for itself, for restoring purposes or getting access to it. We've also been asked if we can provide access to mount them to an alternative host. So in this particular case, in this account, I can see that I can mount this Snapback to the existing one that was taken from, or another one that's in the same account with obvious and within the same region. So this is a great scenario for moving from production back to development, or just grabbing one and putting it on another instance to copy the files and continue to work with them. So it's a real nice capability, and it's a really inexpensive and fast way to move data around without having to do a bunch of copies and file transfers. All right, let's switch back over to our client again here and go into Dynamic Docket. So those of you not familiar with Dynamic Docket, the intent of Dynamic Docket is simply to reduce your run rate costs. I think there's two really good scenarios for this. The first one is a production environment that doesn't need to run all day long. A typical 30-day month is going to have roughly 720 hours of time to operate in. That's if you're running 7/24. If you have a production environment that doesn't need to be available, all evening, say no longer 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever it is, you can fire it up every day at some point in time and have it stop. Now keep in mind that while instances and hosts are stopped, you're not going to be able to run server-side scripting and those sort of things, but you can code around that pretty easily and adjust adjust those schedules as necessary. This will allow you to reduce your run rate. So again, 720 hours a month. If I were to only run this Monday through Friday, let's say for 13 hours every day, and then not run on the weekends, that's going to reduce my run rate from 720 down to 260 hours. That's like a 60% savings. So that's one good scenario to use it in. These can be set up any way you want. Monday, start it up in the morning and then just shut it down Friday, any number of days, shut it down for just weekends, whatever it be. The other scenario though is, say just a development box. And in most cases there, you could set up a schedule, or you could utilize this stop and start host method. Because when you stop a host, you are effectively engaging dynamic Docket. Now, once a week on Sunday during our maintenance window, we'll fire that thing up for you, even if it's been stopped for a couple of weeks. And every week we're going to take a snapback of that and say, hey, this is what state was, put it back into a stop state and continue on. Again, it's about reducing costs, and it's been a very popular thing, especially for clients who want to have an additional development box but don't want to pay for the cost of that development box to be sitting there running all the time. So this gives you the ability to do that. All right, let's talk about private backup while we're here. So private backup is really designed to do one thing, and that is give you ownership of your files outside of the hosted environment into something that you own. So we want to do that in a simple and non-evasive way. We don't want to be copying stuff, running backups to run additional copies and things. So this leverages our Snapback methodology. And what it does is we integrate in with companies like Dropbox and OneDrive. We can support multiple different FTPs, as well as client-owned S3 or AWS accounts where they have an S3 bucket. And what we do is we simply get a little bit of credentialing information from you, set that up, and then at pre-designated times, depending on the model that you have, it's going to perform those actions, and this will give you a log of that. So in this particular case, we are compressing all of this data. We're copying it and we're moving it over there, and how much time it took to do that and what the file is actually called in there. So in this case, we're dumping it into a client-owned S3 bucket, and it transports that thing over there. Now it works very differently than running it server side, because we effectively just take a snapback, we mount it to a service, we do the work that we need to do, and then we post it over to there. Super easy to configure. It's very, very reliable, and you get the best of both worlds. And whether you need it for regulatory reasons or just a personal risk mitigation strategy, it's worked really well for our customers for that. All right, let's switch back over to this host, and I want to talk about one of the features we're super excited to bring, and that is DataDog. So DataDog is now integrated into the Soliant.cloud portal, and it will give you the ability to have a full dashboard looking at an instance by instance basis, where you'll have control over looking at whatever time frame that you want to look at, hours. You'll get information about CPU usage and network processors, as well as information about the particular server and the work that it's doing. Now, we're going to offer this in a couple of different scenarios. The first one's going to be in a basic model that's going to give you some of the core stuff that you need to do, and then also we're going to have the ability to upgrade that for additional costs because of the additional logs and additional data transfers. But you'll be able to get some really detailed information to help you do troubleshooting or help you do performance gains and do some testing on your particular solutions. All right, let's switch over to a different client here real quick. So let's switch over to here. Oh, while we're here, we should mention we have added light and dark mode, because everybody's got to have that these days. So let's switch clients over to GS Adventure Technology. So I'm switching to them because they are utilizing a particular technology from us known as Autoscaling WebWorkers. So our Autoscaling solution is designed to solve two big issues with utilizing WebDirect workers with FileMaker Server. So the first one is, how big of an instance should I have? That is really almost an impossible question to answer until you do some first initial testing. So that's how big of the instance should it be. The other big issue it's designed to address is, how many workers do I need? It's literally impossible to determine the number of workers that you need unless you have a very static amount of them. Keep in mind, what autoscaling does is dynamically bring up workers when you need them. So we can produce 1 to 10 workers based on the load required for them. And when they're not there, you're not using them, and thus you're not being charged for the use of those things. So a couple of configurations to walk through. The first one is ability to choose basically the vertical of the scenario. How big of an instance do I need? Certain solutions are going to work better for a lower number of users with a big machine. Other solutions will work better with a whole bunch of users, but instead of making them larger machines, you make them smaller instances and change the next setting, and that is the threshold. The best way to explain threshold simply is think of it as a number of clients. I have a particular solution on this particular hardware for WebDirect, seems to work pretty good around 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 or whatever that number is. And when you cross over that threshold, a new additional worker will be added for you dynamically. If you continue to be under that threshold, another one will be added and another one will be added. When you drop below that threshold over a period of time, or what we refer to as cooldown time, then that worker will be removed for you. So again, you're utilizing the number of workers you need when you need it at the load that you need them to work at. Another interesting setting is master users. The simple answer here is this allows you to allow your master machine to service a few users, especially over the weekend or overnight, where you can dial down, scale back that cluster of WebWorkers and just let the master machine do that. It's an independent setting based on what you're trying to achieve, but it allows you to have it do its work when it can and then scale when necessary. The last really interesting setting is this one here, which is really about pre-provisioning. You know, in a case where you may have a particular load, this particular client has a whole bunch of technicians that come in early in the morning and load up their tickets, right? Make a bunch of different changes, check out inventory, and they know that happens. So they automatically pre-provision 5 workers to automatically start at 4 a.m. and maintain a minimum of those workers until 12 p.m. Now, during that time, if they need additional load, an additional worker will be added, but it will never drop below the minimum number of workers until that time. And then after that time, we let Autoscale do what it needs to do and bring down or add in individual ones. And again, overnight, those things are just going to shut down. In this particular case, it reminds me of this particular client that was doing this in a very fixed fashion where he had 5 workers dedicated all the time. We were able to not only get increased performance, but reduce costs massively for them, making some adjustments over time. There is one more thing I'd like to mention about autoscaling here at Soliant.cloud. We are doing some special things with that really others just can't do. We're monitoring what is going on with those individual workers at a very detailed level. So we can understand when a particular worker is not in a healthy state and do a couple of things with it. A good scenario would be a particular worker is unhealthy, stop servicing or putting users on that particular worker. We can deregister it from FileMaker server so it will no longer either A, not be able to respond to those requests, or B, even put users on that. If we need to bring up another one in place of it, we can. And when that offending worker is either killed instantly or we let it stay there until the clients that are on it are done doing their work, and then we'll bring it down. But it's this constant balancing act going on that reduces costs, increases performance, increases the capabilities, and really monitors that environment to give you a good experience. Let's switch clients one more time over to, we'll go down here to Mach 1. Oh, I should mention here that we can filter stuff here if you have a large number of clients. So we'll switch to Mach 1 here real quick and take a look at a particular technology that we have offered. We've had this out for a little while, but we've surfaced up a few things. This is OptiFlex disaster recovery. This is a situation where you have a primary machine either on-prem or in cloud, and you need to have a disaster recovery plan in place that doesn't require a worksheet of things to do. So let's walk through this example. I have a machine, I have Mach 1 FMS01 sitting in the European London region. It is getting snapbacks every 15 minutes per our standard snapback methodology. Anytime one of those snapbacks is captured, the other host, this Mach 1 ODR machine, is getting those snapbacks replicated. Now, this particular instance is in the Ireland region, and we transport those snapbacks over to here and register them as restore points. So the short of it is, problem occurs. We will take the snapback point from the primary machine, attach it to this particular machine, swap the DNS. In this case, we can because this client has both their primary and their backup or ODR box in Soliant.cloud, swap the DNS, and then launch that host with that restore point. And again, that restore point is going to be somewhere between 1 and 14 minutes ago. And this machine will come up. They usually take about 4 to 7 minutes, depending on how big the databases are. And you can then decide whether or not you want to actually open them automatically or keep them closed to do things like set up your script schedules or turn certain script schedules off or on. It's a nice balancing act there, and our customers that have used this have been real happy with it. We've had 2 instances over the last year and a half where we've had to use it, and both of them work flawlessly. So super happy to be able to bring this for those customers who really need that high level of disaster recovery built into their environment. All right. One other component I want to do. Let's switch back over here to switch clients. Let's go back to Soliant and take a look at Sidecars. So Sidecars, for all intents and purposes, are microservices in the cloud. Rather than running services, say like webhooks on a particular host or a file, even worst case scenario, a FileMaker server machine, because if the machine fails, you've got lack of fault tolerance there. You've got the inability to deliver webhooks to that because it's no longer responding. These are abstracted away from that and put out in a cloud native environment. It gives us high availability, high scalability, and can store and forward those requests whenever necessary. Now we've got Sidecars for a lot of different things, for S3 integrations and for webhooks and for a number of different specialty applications. But at the end of the day, the webhook sits out there, or the Sidecar sits out there and allows you to have an endpoint to talk to. Now, FileMaker can talk to this endpoint through a couple of very simple scripts. We handle all the complexity dealing with Amazon token keys and security credentialing and all of that. And you can also configure that to do what it is you do. So this is a webhook in this case. We give it the information of what to call, what script to call, whether we want batching turned on or not. You can set up multiple of these configurations for a specific sidecar, like one for demo, one for development, one for UAT, one for production. And you can set these things up and configure and manage them and deploy them out all through the portal. They've been a big hit. They've been very resilient, and our customers are getting massive performance. One of the ones I love is our one for S3. It allows us to provide you a very simple integration in with S3 to dealing with moving containers out of FileMaker and putting them into an S3 bucket. Again, reducing that storage cost and getting massive amounts of performance because you're retrieving them from an S3 bucket as opposed to having to go through the whole application layer of FileMaker server to push them through. So last thing is billing before we move on to the final topic of OmniBlaze, and that is just we've integration with Stripe, and we're adding the capability to do not only credit cards but ACH transfers, and we have plans to increase different payment methods as we go forward. So let's come back here and let's talk a little bit about our next big thing, and that is OmniBlaze. So as I mentioned, OmniBlaze is basically a load testing platform that we have running as a cloud service that you can subscribe to, and you can run tests between 1 and 2,000 different desktop clients at the exact same time. Now, if you're interested in knowing more about it, just go to Soliant.cloud/OmniBlaze. I'll give you something you can scan here in a minute. But let's walk through the idea. Basically, you're going to get onboarded and you're going to do some design workflow scripting using native FileMaker scripting. We've got a lot of documentation. We've got consultants that can help you design those workflow designs so that you can say, hey, I'm going to take this use case because I have a lot of users that do this at the same time. I want to understand what I could do to make it more efficient. What impact does it have? You design those and run them. We then set up OmniBlaze. In this case, I've got a couple hundred agents I'm going to throw at this thing and see how well it performs. While it's running, once I kick that thing off, I'm going to get a bunch of logs and I'm going to get the results of those things. You can see here in this particular case, I got 200 clients. They're all working away to do the load testing. And then when it's all over and said and done, I can analyze all that. And we're going to supply you with a ton of information about what happened with the clients, what was the memory, CPU utilization, remote calls, network throughput, and a variety of whole bunch of other metrics that we have available to you so that you can test your application, make changes, rerun another test. It's a very cost-effective way to do this. We support both servers in Soliant.cloud as well as on-prem servers that you can run these tests against. I encourage you to take a peek at it and reach out to us and let us know how we can help you get some better performance out of your applications and get, honestly, some empirical evidence to support when you make this change, what effect does it have? When you make change in architecture, the way you approach a problem, what effect does it really have? And how can I get better performance out of individual changes, as well as adjusting hardware to support that? Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time with me today. I know we're a little long, but I appreciate you taking that. We're looking forward to getting the portal out to you, and have a great day.